Hello, I'm Esther Githu-Ewart. Welcome to Africa 54. Here's what's coming up. The United States collaborates with the European Union on an infrastructure initiative expected to transform the economies of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Zambia, and Angola. Mali's military rulers ask northern rebels to lay down their arms and face the justice system in order to participate in nationwide peace talks. And Julian Assange, the founder of the whistleblowing website WikiLeaks, launches a last-ditch legal bid to prevent his extradition from Britain to the United States on charges of espionage. All this and much more coming up on today's Africa 54. The United States and European Union are spearheading efforts to develop the Lobito Economic Corridor, which connects the Democratic Republic of Congo, Zambia, and Angola, a move that is being hailed as a major initiative that will transform the three countries' economies. U.S. officials say the White House is making a commitment of $360 million towards the project, the largest U.S. investment in infrastructure development in Africa. Kathy Short has more from Lusaka.
The Lobito Corridor is the first strategic public global infrastructure or PGI project that U.S. President Joe Biden launched in 2023 under the G7 Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment Initiative. Biden's senior advisor on energy, Amos Hochstein, said the completed corridor will integrate the African continent and improve connections with global markets.
9 short months ago, building on the momentum initiated by Zambia, Angola, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, President Biden announced PGI's support to develop the Lobito Corridor and a vision to connect Africa's continent from the Atlantic to the Indian Oceans. And as you may know, he keeps talking about it repeatedly and shows his passion for this at multiple events.
Zambian economist Emmanuel Zulu says while he welcomes the project, it should expand the value chain on the continent.
What we'd love to see is this corridor, yes, being funded, and also establishment of processing industries in these same countries where these commodities are coming from, so that you can benefit from, job creation and value addition and all that, and use the corridor for exporting finished commodities like cables and all.
The Lobito Corridor project involves laying hundreds of miles of tracks from Zambia's Copperbelt region to the Benguela railway line in Angola. It is a flagship of the Biden administration's efforts to counter China's significant infrastructure investment in Africa over more than 2 decades. At the Investors Forum in Lusaka, Zambian President Hakainde Hichilema said the Lobito Corridor is a once-in-a-generation project.
When we manage this project well, this corridor well, the impact to our economies of Angola, Congo DR, Zambia will be dramatic.
The Africa Finance Corporation is the lead developer for the Lobito Corridor project. Africa Finance Corporation President and CEO Samailu Zubairu told VOA the project demonstrates that the African continent needs African expertise and capital to develop.
We're looking at special economic zones, we're looking at industrial parks, we're looking at the agricultural value chain, we're looking at the forests and reforestation, we're looking at biodiversity, we're looking at ecotourism, and several other elements.
Some analysts say once completed, the Lobito Corridor will provide the quickest route to global markets for minerals such as copper, lithium, and cobalt, which are vital for the global transition away from fossil fuels. Kathy Short for VOA, Lusaka, Zambia.
Hundreds of mourners on Thursday accompanied the casket of marathon world record holder Kelvin Kiptum on its way to his home village, where the young star who dreamed of breaking the race's storied 2-hour barrier is being laid to rest. Alice Rizzo has more.
Singing hymns and holding hands, mourners walked alongside a convoy carrying Kelvin Kiptum's flower-lined casket as it's headed to his home village. The procession for the marathon world record holder departed a morgue in the western Kenyan city of Eldoret on Thursday. 24-year-old Kiptum was killed in a car crash alongside his coach, Gervais Hakizimana, earlier this month. He lost control of the vehicle he was driving and crashed into a tree in Kenya's Rift Valley. The pathologist's report said he died of head injuries. Kiptum had only run 3 marathons, but each was among the fastest 7 times ever recorded. In October last year, he set the world record at the Chicago Marathon in 2 hours and 35 seconds. He had hoped to break 2 hours in Rotterdam this April and was expected to make his Olympic debut in Paris. The casket will travel about 80 kilometers on its way from Eldoret to Chipsamo, where Kiptum worked as a livestock herder before becoming a professional runner. Kiptum is survived by his wife and 2 young children. He will be buried on Friday.
Alice Rees of Reuters filed that report. Mali has officially launched an internal peace process, but Tuareg rebels are calling it a staged event. David Doyle explains.
Mali's military rulers have told the northern rebels they need to lay down their arms and face the justice system in order to participate in nationwide peace talks. And that's a stipulation that could risk undermining the campaign's effectiveness. Late last month, the ruling junta issued a decree to establish a committee to organize national peace and reconciliation talks. That was a day after it ended a 2015 peace deal with Tuareg separatist rebels. Mali has been plagued by violence since 2012, when jihadist militants hijacked an uprising by Tuareg groups. Insurgents linked to Al-Qaeda and Islamic State have gone on to kill thousands of civilians in violence that has spread to neighboring Burkina Faso and Niger. The 2015 Tuareg peace agreement also came under strain after 2 military coups in 2020 and 2021. That was followed by the arrival of Russian military contractor Wagner Group and the departure of French forces and a UN peacekeeping mission. Fighting between the Malian army and the separatists has escalated since last August, as they jostled for position during the gradual withdrawal of UN peacekeepers. The new internal peace process was officially launched on Tuesday. Former Prime Minister and Peace Talks Steering Committee President Ousmane Issoufi Maïga said rebels need to explain why they took up arms.
Why don't they want to lay down their arms since they're Malians? They must answer to the justice of their country.
Officials at the launch declined to give a specific time frame or say which armed groups would be involved. A spokesperson for Tuareg rebels last month called the initiative a staged event by groups that were already aligned.
That was David Doyle of Reuters reporting. Fighting continues in the Israel-Hamas war. Video filmed in Rafah on Thursday showed smoke rising over Gaza's Khan Yunis. Israeli bombs on Rafah destroyed a mosque and homes in what residents called one of their worst nights yet, while the Hamas chief was in Cairo for talks. Gazans hope could bring a truce in time to head off a full-blown assault on the city. The Hamas-run Gaza health authorities say 97 people are confirmed killed and 130 wounded in the last 24 hours of Israeli attacks, but many victims are likely still under rubble or in areas rescuers could not or have not reached. Zimbabwe has launched an emergency polio vaccination campaign to contain a new outbreak, even as it fights a cholera outbreak that has claimed close to 500 lives. Columbus Mavunga reports from Harare.
Evans Zwaki, who delivered her 5th child at Chitungiza Hospital just outside Harare, says the newborn has already been vaccinated against the polio virus. Zimbabwe launched an emergency polio vaccination drive after health officials confirmed a case late last year.
I am happy that a vaccination program happened when I was here at the hospital. If you are at home, you will procrastinate, and the vaccination program ends.
The United Nations says Zimbabwe is one of the 11 countries in Eastern and Southern Africa that has reported cases of polio, resulting in this mass vaccination campaign. Zimbabwe is partnering with UNICEF and the World Health Organization and others on the drive.
Currently in Zimbabwe, because Zimbabwe recorded over 15 cases of polio since last year, there is a campaign going on targeting 4.2 million children under the age of 10. And again, UNICEF is working with partners to be able to ensure that this vaccination goes on well. A procurement of over 10.5 million doses of vaccines. And we hope by the end of these 2 rounds, all the target population will be reached.
Sleiman Timios Kwidini, Zimbabwe's Deputy Health and Child Care Minister, says laboratory tests confirmed the presence of the virus in samples collected from sewage sites in Harare. Another case was confirmed about a 3-hour drive from Harare.
The detection of these viruses in the environment or in humans constitutes a polio outbreak in the country. While the news is concerning, we as ministry would like to reassure the public that we have taken the swift action to investigate and contain the outbreak to prevent any further spread that may occur.
Kwidini urged citizens to cooperate with authorities conducting polio vaccination so that the virus can be eradicated from Zimbabwe. Meanwhile, Zimbabwe is battling to contain another outbreak of cholera with 470 deaths out of more than 25,000 suspected cases of the waterborne disease. Columbus Mavunga, VOA News, Chitungwiza, Zimbabwe.
February is Black History Month in the United States, and it is dedicated to celebrating the history and contributions of Black people. It is also a month to reflect on the struggles and successes of Black people and their culture. According to the American Association of University Women, Black women in higher education are more likely to earn college degrees than Black men. For more on Black History Month, I'm joined by Leila Fassi, a multimedia production specialist and a graduate of Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia. Leila, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you for having me. So excited.
Yes, indeed. So tell us, what does the future look like for African Americans and Black people generally here in the United States?
So what I think the future looks like for African American people, especially young graduates, I feel as though that the opportunities are limitless. I feel as though that because of the people who have come before us, our parents and our grandparents, I feel as though they've paved the way for us to not only kind of take time to figure out what we want to do, but just to try all different kinds of things. And depending on what career field you'd like to go into, I feel as though that when you get out of college, you know, there's so much opportunity for you, like right out of the gate, especially for someone who's in a creative field like myself. I feel as though that it's just a blank canvas for us to try and explore where we want to go. And if you have the skill and the dedication to do that, then I feel like the opportunities will be there for you.
So what kind of challenges do you feel out there, or kind of obstacles for African Americans trying to enter the job market? You just graduated from school, so you're in that category where you're trying to find some way out here.
Yes.
What challenges are you finding?
I'm finding that it's very competitive. You know, there are a lot of people like myself who have the drive to just try to make a name for themselves out here in this world. And I think especially nowadays, there's more of a market for people of color and people like myself to go out there and pave the way. So I feel as though that there are challenges, but there's also, you know, benefits as well. But I feel like just as long as you kind of network and kind of know what you want to do and how you want to approach a situation and how you just kind of want to offer yourself, I think people will definitely take to you as far as the job market is concerned.
Well, we've had a lot of success stories from, you know, African American communities here, and there are so many names that we could name that are really known. But
Yes.
you know, do you have a role model that you aspire to be like?
Yes, so creatively, I really adore Issa Rae. I don't know if you're familiar with her work, but she was the creative director and writer on the show Insecure, and that started from just being a web series, something that she was just passionate about, and she put the time and the effort into it, and now she has a whole corporation behind her. So she's really one of the women that, as far as in the creative industry, I really look up to her and just all that she's done. And Ava DuVernay, Jordan Peele, all of those incredible Black creatives. they really just make me feel inspired to do a lot of work.
Nice to know that you got a lot of inspiration from other people. But what kind of conversations do you have as young people when you talk, say, to your parents or your grandparents about where they have come, the challenges they have gone through, or the successes? What kind of conversations goes around, especially this month?
Yes. So the conversations kind of center around just how for example, when my mother was in school or my father was in school, schools were just starting to, become integrated, and my mom was walking down the hallway and she would have her hair pulled on. People would throw things at her because, racism was still very much at its peak. And it's still very prevalent today in society, but I feel as though that nowadays my mom and we just have the capability to go out here in this world and just kind of make our way for ourselves versus our grandparents who would have took so much longer to get to where we have and all the resources that we have. I think that we just are able to achieve so much more. And my mom just loves to see someone like me who has the opportunity to do something like this. She would have never even dreamed to do anything like this when she was her age, or just see anybody of her color do something like this or do something that you're doing. So I think that we've come a long way. There's still a long way to go, but I think we've come a long way.
And what kind of conversations do you have, especially now? Are you meeting your peers, your friends, and to celebrate this month? And what kind of conversations go around among the young people?
Right. So I feel like among young people, we try to just focus on the achievements that our fellow, grandparents, just the Black people that have come before us, how they've made it out here in society. And I feel as though that focusing on the achievements, focusing on the things that they've done, just really allows us to kind of understand the gravity of what our grandparents went through and our parents went through. And I think it just makes us appreciate where we've come even more and makes us fight to do the hard work to get even further in society as far as just paving the way for ourselves.
Great. I kind of think the same. I see that you have more opportunities now. You have more leverage in terms of finding your space. Thank you so much, Leila.
Thank you.
Leila Fassi is a multimedia production specialist and a graduate of Old Dominion University, Norfolk, Virginia. We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54 and all our VOA Africa programs on our website at voaafrica.com. Still to come, Julian Assange launches a last-ditch legal effort to prevent his extradition from Britain to the United States. We'll have a report. Stay with us.
Women played a crucial role in the Sudanese revolution that eventually ousted President Omar al-Bashir. Women were also instrumental in the establishment of a new country, South Sudan. They are now calling for an end to fighting and hostilities that have persisted in both countries. On this week's episode of Our Voices, we'll hear the voices of women in Sudan and South Sudan who advocate for peace and stability. Join the conversation each week right here on Our Voices.
Health, wellness, sport, beauty, medical breakthroughs. Healthy Living cares about your well-being. What are the main health concerns in Africa and around the world? Find out the latest on coronavirus. Connect with our experts and ask them questions.
How long does the virus stay?
Join me, Linoch Mudu, in Washington, every week on Healthy Living, right here on VOA.
In other news, A new outbreak of unrest in northern Mozambique, a scene of a jihadist insurgency, is forcing thousands to flee their homes, according to the United Nations figures and sources in Cabo Delgado province. An alert from the UN Migration Agency says recent attacks in the Macomia, Chure and Meshufi districts had displaced over 13,000 people, most of them children. Migration boats bound for Europe from Tunisia once attracted only the unemployed and desperate, but now they're increasingly carrying middle-class Tunisians, sometimes entire families. As Tunisia's economy has floundered over recent years, more young people are leaving to seek their fortune in prosperous Italy or France, but this has led to a spike in drownings. And Somali President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud says his government has approved a 10-year defense and economic cooperation agreement with Turkey. Under the agreement, Turkey will build, train and equip the Somali Navy. The move comes 1 month after neighboring Ethiopia signed an agreement with a breakaway region of Somalia to gain Red Sea access. Julian Assange, the founder of the whistleblowing website WikiLeaks, is launching a last-ditch legal bid to prevent his extradition from Britain to the United States on charges of espionage relating to the publication of thousands of stolen U.S. diplomatic cables and military documents. Henry Ridgewell has more details from London.
Julian Assange's supporters staged a demonstration outside Britain's High Court as the WikiLeaks founder sought to block his extradition to the United States on charges of espionage. Assange himself was not present owing to ill health. During the two-day hearing that ended Wednesday, defense lawyers argued that Assange was simply doing his job as a journalist by publishing the stolen US files.
Particularly when it covers issues such as war crimes, crimes against humanity, accusations of torture, extrajudicial execution. These are really serious matters that are in a significant public interest. And as a result, they say it's outside of the extradition treaty between the US and the UK. The second argument they made, building on the first really, was that this is covered by freedom of expression.
Assange faces 18 US federal charges relating to allegations of hacking and theft of classified material.
The US argue that Julian Assange's revelations that he published, endangered US national security and put some of their sources at risk.
In 2010, WikiLeaks published a trove of stolen diplomatic cables relating to the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, which Assange said exposed abuses by the United States military. US authorities say Assange revealed the identities of informants, endangering their lives. Assange was first arrested in Britain in 2010 on unrelated allegations of rape and sexual assault in Sweden. He jumped bail and sought refuge inside the Ecuadorian embassy, where he stayed for 7 years. In 2019, Assange was evicted from the embassy and imprisoned for breaching bail. The British government signed an extradition order to the United States in June 2022 after failed legal challenges. Assange's wife, Stella, has repeatedly claimed that the 52-year-old's life is in danger.
It's an attack on all journalists all over the world. It's an attack on the truth, and it's an attack on the public's right to know. Julian is a political prisoner, and his life is at risk.
Demonstrations calling for Assange's release have been held in cities across the world. The Australian Parliament last week called for Assange to be allowed to return to his homeland. A decision by the High Court is expected to take several days or weeks. If the judges rule in his favour, Assange could lodge an appeal against his extradition. If the legal bid fails, the case could be taken to the European Court of Human Rights. However, Britain could seek to extradite Assange before European judges could rule on the case. Henry Ridgewell, VOA News, London.
A unique program called Shark Spotters is helping keep water lovers safe. Vicky Stark reports from Cape Town, South Africa.
Rosario Landor is one of 22 shark spotters operating at some of Cape Town's most popular beaches like Muizenberg and Fish Hoek. Another 14 spotters work further north in Plettenberg Bay, where the program started after 2 fatal shark attacks in 2022, the last shark-related fatalities on record in South Africa. The spotters sit in huts dotted along the mountainside.
When I see a shark, I got a small cell phone that I activate the siren from up here, and the siren goes down on the, goes off on the beach. So yeah, and then I just inform my beach spotter, like where is the shark, the position of the shark, what's the shark doing, where it is, and if it's moving out, or you know, and then he just has to put up the appropriate flag.
Different coloured flags have different meanings. Green means spotting conditions are good. Black means that spotting conditions are poor, but no sharks have been seen. Red means a shark has been spotted far from the area used by swimmers and poses no threat, so the beach isn't cleared. White with a black shark means a shark is near the beach and swimmers need to get out of the water. According to the Shark Spotters website, there have only been 28 shark attacks along the Cape Peninsula since 1960. 7 of those were fatal. But in the last 10 years, there have been no reported attacks at Cape Town's beaches.
Since 2004, we've recorded over 2,500 white shark sightings. And during that time, we've obviously kept people away from the sharks. And so those are a potential number of incidents that we've avoided.
Besides the early warning system, weather permitting, the shark spotters can also deploy an eco-friendly shark exclusion net to separate swimmers and sharks at Fishhook Beach. The group is also involved in educating the public about sharks and their role in creating an ecological balance.
So obviously if you remove predators, then you have overabundance of prey, which then can also then cause the prey of those prey to then decrease.
But the shark spotters can't be everywhere. Senior scientist at Wild Trust, Jennifer Olbers, says, for example, shark spotting won't work in KwaZulu-Natal because of the high energy coastline and lack of high vantage points. She says cameras might be an option in areas like these. Tariq Hassim is a former lifeguard who survived an encounter with the great white. He says he relies on the shark spotters to keep him and swimmers safe.
As a lifeguard, we've worked with shark spotters every morning, just radioing, and it helps us know where we can't see. It's just so much better to know where the sharks are.
Hassim says he hopes Shark Spotters, which turns 20 this year, will continue its good work and help ensure that the only place most people see sharks close up is in catch and release aquariums like these. Vicky Stark, VOA News, Cape Town, South Africa.
And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thank you for watching.